Welcome to the 33rd chapter of the book of Exodus. Moses has went up to the mountain, and as he came down, he saw that the sons of Israel had went into idolatry with the calf after only a few months having left Egypt. Moses was probably up, well, he was up there for 40 days, I believe, and 40 nights, it says. And so that would make it over 3-4 months since they left Egypt. Not that long to get into idolatry and give up on Jehovah. But they found a willing brother of Moses, Aaron, to build or carve this image for them to bow down to, do obeisance to. And Moses came down, found out all about this, broke the 2 tablets, and then mentions here how God is now going to talk to Moses, and we'll go into that and see what he has to say. And it begins, and the Lord, Kyrios, said to Moses, he speaks to him, go forth, ascend from here, you and your people, which you led from out of the land of Egypt, into the land which I swore by an oath to Abraham and to Isaac and to Jacob. In the imperative, go forth and go up to Israel. Basically, that was the land of Canaan, Israel today. Go there, and which I swore by an oath, even after they went into the idolatry, and then Moses broke up the idol and scattered the ashes in the river, and the people drank the gold. So, and then saying to, well, let's see, now I gotta, You're saying to your seed, spermatia, sperma comes from that word, I will give it. To your seed I will give it. That's what he said to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And so Jesus is coming through that line, so that, I believe, is why God did not destroy those people, because of his promise to the fathers. If it would have been those people at that time, he would have destroyed them and made a new nation with Moses. But he didn't. So, and then he continues and he says, I will send along my angelon, angel, before your face. The angel, now exactly who the messenger, if it was an angelic being or if it was a messenger in another form, a lot of times it's tied into Jehovah himself in a form of a messenger. Wouldn't be an angel as we created being. But anyway, here he's going to send this angel before your face, and he will cast out the Amorite, the Hittite, Perizzite, Girgashite, and Hivite, and Jebusite, and Canaanite. So the angel will do all these things, however the angels work. And I will bring you into a land flowing milk and honey. So he will bring them into this land. Eventually they will get there, but we'll find out what happens later on the way there. And then he continues, that is God, for I will not go up with you, because you are a hard-necked people, that I should not completely consume you in the way. Now, there's a key here, is I will not go up with you. So there is a separation. He's saying that the angel, and he's not going to be doing it himself. And so, but there's we get down here in a few verses that you'll see the difference between this with you. And it says, and the people hearing this severe saying mourned in mourning. They mourned because God was not going to go along with them. And the Lord said to the sons of Israel, through Moses, I'm sure. You are a people hard-necked, sclerotrachelos. A sclero, we have sclerosis is a hardening, and cardiosclerosis, and here it's a trache, the neck. The trachea comes from that. You are a hard-necked people, laos. See that I bring not another calamity upon you, and should completely consume you. So he is angry at them, but he's warning them that he still could completely consume them. Now then, remove your glorious apparels, stolas, doxon, glory, the doxology comes from that. And the cosmology, cosmetics comes from this, and the ornament. And I will show to you what I will do. Now, exactly why he had them, what they were, the glorious apparels and the ornaments, if they were to go to him in like sackcloth and ashes or something that wasn't boisterous of who they were, it doesn't say, but he just says, I will show to you what I will do. And the sons of Israel removed their ornamentation and the attire at the mountain of Horeb, which I believe to be Jebel Sin Bishar, which is fairly close to the top of the Red Sea, to the east a little bit, east and to the top, and then south of a bit. It's only a couple of thousand feet high. And Moses, taking his skinin, a tent, a scene comes from that, pitched outside the camp. Outside, so he didn't actually stay in there with the people, which is kind of interesting. He was far from the camp. It doesn't say how far, but he was far from it. And it was called skini tu martyriu, tent of testimony, which was what they were going to be building. But he was called the tent of testimony. And this is where Moses stayed, lived. But Moses had the instructions for this other tent of testimony, and we see it first mentioned in Exodus 27:21, the tent of testimony, where the incense altar and everything, all the different holy items we mentioned earlier, went through here in the last 10 chapters, were going to be in that tent of testimony, but apparently Moses had not yet told the people about this tent of testimony, because it mentions here later that he goes back up the mountain the second time to get the tablets redone. And it came to pass, all the ones seeing the Lord went forth into the tent outside the camp. Now, they went into the tent. One seeing the Lord went forth into the tent outside the camp. And whenever Moses entered into the tent outside the camp, all the people stood watching, each one by the door of his tent. And they contemplated Moses as going unto his entering into the tent. And as Moses, so all the people were bowing down when he goes by and so forth, doing obeisance. And as Moses entered into the tent, the column of cloud came down and stood at the door of the tent. And he spoke to Moses. Now, who is the he here? I believe this is Jesus in the form of God taking human form, speaking to Moses, because later we see that God, you can't see God the face of God, but yet Moses was able to speak to him in a person. So I believe it's Jesus. And all the people saw the column of cloud standing by the door of the tent. And all the people stood and did obeisance. They stopped, basically. Istato, stood, stopped. because in doing obeisance, you have your face on the ground, so you wouldn't be standing. So that word probably, I should highlight that to change it to, there we go, and done. To stand, to stayed or stopped, and did obeisance, each from the door of his tent. So they were all in their tents, and they go out and did obeisance. And the Lord, there's 1 million people here. That's a lot of people. And the Lord spoke to Moses face to face. Now later we'll see, well, this, if it was, he couldn't see the God in his fullness. So this is a figure of speech, as what I would consider being a figure of speech, basically in person. The Lord Kyrios spoke to Moses in person, as if any might speak to his own friend. Again, as somebody in a human form, I believe, was Jesus. Who else could it be? And he retired into the camp. I don't know if that's he would be Jehovah or Moses. It doesn't say, but and the attendant, the therapon, is Zeus. Now here we got the name for Jesus again. I forgot to highlight that in green, so let's do that so you'll know that this is the name for Jesus. And the attendant is Zeus, who went up with Moses. He was the son of Nun, a young man, did not go forth from out of the tent. Now, what tent he's talking about here, his own tent, or the tent the tent of testimony, which is the one I'm guessing where Moses was at, and Joshua was his attendant and stayed there also. Makes sense to me. And Moses said to Kyrion, the Lord Jehovah, behold, you say to me, we'll lead this people, but you manifested not to me whom you shall send along with me. But you said to me, I know you above all, and you have favor with me. So this is his stating the facts of what he knows to God and trying to find out more. And he says, then I have found favor before you, reveal to me yourself knowingly, that I might see you. Well, now it said that he was talking to him as person, so apparently either he was talking to him and it was just a sound and you didn't see anything. Doesn't say. It's interesting, but so that he wants to see you. I want to see you. However, I should be found in favor before you, and that I might know that this nation is your people. Well, you would think that he would know, after all the things that have happened, that this nation is his people, but maybe after their disobedience, he wanted reassurance. And he says, Moses, I myself, no, this would be God, I'm sorry, Jehovah says, I myself will go before you and will rest you. Now, here's a big difference here. If you remember before in verse 3, I was saying, he says, I will go with you. But now he doesn't say with you, I will go before you. He's separating himself from the people, going before, and will rest you, and get the same thing will happen. You'll be up there in Israel eventually. And then he says here, this is probably Moses, to him, who is God, Jehovah, unless you yourself should go up with us. So now he brings the with, as in the beginning, that God said he would not go with them, but now God's saying he's going to go before. But Moses is arguing, well, unless you go yourself with us, there's the differences before and with, you should not lead me from here. And how will it truly be known that I have found favor by you, I and also your people, unless you are going with us? There's the key, with us. And both I and your people will be glorified by all the nations, as many as are upon the earth. unless you go with us. Now, there's a big difference between going before and going with. If I have needed to go someplace, and the person, and I needed help, and the other person said, well, I'll just go ahead and get that taken care of or do whatever. I'll meet you there. Well, that's way different than saying, I'm going to go with you, and whatever happens on the way, I'll help you. So basically, that's sort of what the situation is here as I see it. And the Lord said to Moses, and this word which you have said I will do to you, for you have found favor before me, and I know you above all. What a beautiful thing to be in the state of having found favor before God and having him say, I know you above all. And Moses was not a perfect person. He got angry a couple of times, killed an Egyptian, but yet God found favor. So if he can find favor with Moses, he can find favor with you and me, even in our sin. Continues in the glory of the Lord shown to Moses. And Moses says, show to me your own doxon glory. And he, that is God, said, Jehovah said, I will go by in front of you in my glory, and will call the name the Lord before you. Now, here, I believe I will call the name, the onomati. It can also be a title, I believe. I'm going to stick with, I believe his name was, as he said earlier to Moses, what is your name? And I am the being one, oon in Greek. I should look it up and see what it is in Hebrew, the being one. And Kyrios is a title. And I believe when it says, I will call the name, the title, name title, put a slash there, because I don't know of another word that you could use for the usage of a word for a title. It's sort of like the same thing with a Guinea. It could be a wife or a woman, depending on the context that it's around. So I will call the name or the title, the Lord before you. And I will show mercy on whomever I should show mercy, and I will pity whomever I should pity. It's in his discretion. God does what God wants to do, has mercy on whoever he would, and pities. And God said, he said, you will not be able to see my face. See, now here it is. He couldn't see the face, but he said it before it was a face-to-face, but that's what I mean. It was, I believe, a figure of speech, meaning in person. There was a difference, and to me it was Jesus if he was talking to somebody. For not in any way may man see my face and shall live. So, not the true face of God. Now, what is in God's face that man, if he saw it, couldn't live? Well, my opinion is that it is light that is so bright that it would just vaporize a person, brighter than the sun by 1 billion times. It might have been in some type of a human form, because it mentions how he makes man in his image. That's in Genesis. And so if he's making man in his image, but yet the face could be just something that's so bright that would make the sun look like it would look like a piece of coal, and there's no way a man could be in front of it and see it, because it says, and the Lord said, behold, a place by me, topos, there's a place by me, and you shall stand upon the Petros, upon the rock. So there's a place, rock, and whenever my glory should go by, even I will put you into an opening of the rock, and will shelter with my hand upon you until whenever I should go by. And I shall remove the hand and then you shall see the rear of me, but my face will not appear to you. He has a hand, and he has a rear, and he has a face. So a man in the image of God, God may be much more similar than what we think, and it's way beyond the understanding. But Jesus, as a person that came to this earth, being sent by the Father, as he said in so many places in the New Testament, in 2 Corinthians 4:4, it says, in whom the God of this eon blinded the thoughts of the unbelieving, so as to not shine forth to them the illumination of the good news of the glory of the Christ, who is the image of the unseen God. So there, it says it right there. Jesus is the image. So somebody that you could stand and see, they saw him. And he's the image of God that we can see without being destroyed, burnt up or whatever. And I believe that's why I believe that was Jesus that Moses was talking to earlier. Then in Colossians 1:15, it says, Paul says about Jesus, who is the image of the unseen God, firstborn of all creation. So he was came into existence before the creation. He was the creator, and then took an image. And then in Hebrews 1:3, it says about Jesus, who being the radiance of the glory, isn't that Gloria just talked about it, the radiance of the glory, the impression of his essence. Well, so Jesus is a radiance of the glory. People could see the glory, and when he was on the Mount of Transfiguration, he transformed into a radiation form, and then Moses and Elijah appeared on the mount, and I believe it was Mount Meron, which is just west of the Lake of Galilee, because it talks about this mountain. This is where Jesus went up more than once, and that it's interesting how Moses talked to Jesus there. I believe he talked to Jesus earlier when it was saying he was there outside the tent talking. But I mean, Moses knew exactly who this was because he sees him again on the Mount of Transfiguration, and he talks with Jesus there, with Elijah, and Peter, James, and John see this all going on. So Jesus is the form. He is God, Jehovah, and he's taken a human form, comes through the line of a woman, a human, but is deity. Chapter 34, now we go back and he gets the second set of tablets after the first ones which he broke. Was he a bad person by breaking the commandments? Well, people always use that for a figure of breaking the laws and so forth, and Moses broke the Ten Commandments, but he didn't really. He broke the tablets. He didn't break the Ten Commandments. But we'll find out more about what happens with this in chapter 34. And again, hope you'll join us in the next video seminar. Until then, God bless.